hello and welcome to the Interschools webinar for new school coordinators. The aim of this webinar is to overview the role and responsibilities of a school coordinator, show you how to complete your school entries, overview what to expect this year, and talk about some important event rules. My name is Wendy Olsen and I am the National Event Coordinator at Snow Australia and one of your key contacts for Interschools. My colleague Kathy Lambert, who will be speaking soon, is another key contact for Interschools and staff member of Snow Australia. If you have any questions on Interschools, our contact details are on the screen and also available on our website. Our chairman, Steve Cooper, was going to join us, but he decided to go to Cairns instead, and he's currently sipping cocktails somewhere nice. And we also have Nick Rawson, Sales and Guest Experience Manager at Perisher on the webinar. He's that third screen you can see at the bottom, and he'll be able to answer any Perisher questions at the end of the webinar. Okay, and on that, how to ask questions, please, while the webinar is going, please post any questions into the chat function. Hopefully you can see where that is, and questions will be answered at the end or when appropriate. And please leave it to questions so that we can get through them. Okay. Well, we're looking forward to recommencing Interschools events in 2022. Our focus is to provide fun and safe events along with a highly positive on-snow experience. It is of importance for schools to note that all competitors entering Interschools are capable skiers and snowboarders. We say this for a couple of reasons. Many children have not had the time on snow that they may usually have had in the past 2 years. Many may not have been able to travel to the snow at all last year. There is also there is also less pre-event competition training options at the resorts than in previous years, particularly so during our school holiday regional events. All Snow Australia Interschools events will comply with all national, state and regional COVID regulations and will recognise the respective regulations and requirements of the Departments of Health and School Education. Snow Australia Interschools continues to monitor any changes with Perisher and Thredbo. We will keep you informed as best as we can at all times on current regulations. There'll be a COVID-related team change rule in the 2020 competition rules where in the event of a positive COVID case, we'll be able to make a team change. Hopefully you have seen our event schedule, and here it is on the screen. That's also available on our website. It's very detailed and it goes through all the championships and what events are on each day per discipline. That's the discipline on the side when it says 6 and 5, that's for division 6 and 5. Okay, if you just excuse me, I've just got to put up another screen here for a second. Okay. Right, it's okay, I'll keep on going. Okay, so our regional championships in 2022, you've seen that we've got 4 championships. And if you're unfamiliar with which championships your school must go into, they're up here on the screen. If you are a new school and you're unsure, you can please feel free to get in touch with Kathy and myself and we can confirm it for you. If you're a new school coordinator for a school that's already competing, and you need to change your details in the online entry system, please get in touch with Kathy and myself as well. Our competition schedules will be published within 1 week of the championships commencing. This is because we need the final entry information and dependent on the final snow conditions at the time. The Sydney Championships at Perisher will be scheduled for the later afternoon and evening for all 5 event days. There is no competitor or team manager discounted lift tickets at Perisher, as was published in the April 7 news story on our website. There will, however, be competitor and team manager lift tickets at Thredbo, which will be able to be purchased on the day, and at Falls Creek, but I'm going to be talking about event ticketing a little later on. I'm going to go through the school coordinator responsibilities now. Now, before the event, the school coordinator is in charge of completing the entries in the online entry system. That process also involves team manager additions, entering the team managers and entering the volunteer course officials. You're in charge of making sure all your competitors and volunteers have completed a waiver form, and also in charge of the school payment. Now, while you're at the event, the school coordinators are in charge of collecting all the competition bibs to distribution to competitors. Now, we put together the bibs in school bags because we're unable to hand out individual bibs due to our competitions having over 1,000 competitors or more. You must be knowledgeable of the Interschools rules of competition, and we'll have those on our website. And you're in charge of team changes at the event due to injury and due to a COVID positive case now. And if you have an official protest about a result. Now, if you're not going to physically be at the championships as the school coordinator, you need to assign a representative to do so. And you need to let all the families know who that will be and share the contact details for that representative. On to team manager responsibilities. Team managers at the event must have an understanding of our Interschools rules of competition and their code of conduct. They are allowed to complete course inspection with their team members, and course inspection is having a look at the course at a very slower pace so that you can point out to your competitors gate direction, features, where the finish line is. Team managers are also responsible to get the competitors to the top of the course or verbally let them know where the course is and make sure that they're there on time and ready to compete. They have their competition bibs on, they've got a helmet on, gloves on, etc. On to volunteer course officials. For entry into Interschools, schools must supply one volunteer course official for every 8 entries that a school enters. Volunteers are the backbone of our events. They allow us to run fun and safe events, and we couldn't run them without them. Last year, we developed an Interschools online training course that is available this year. Again, there aren't any changes if by chance you completed it last year, so you don't have to redo it again, but you're welcome to if you'd like a refresh. And this is available on our website. Also recommend, if you're not volunteer, but you're a school coordinator or team manager, to do the course as well, because it goes through all the volunteer roles and what rules that they govern, and that is quite relevant for school coordinators and team managers, and there are interactive videos. Okay, ticketing events, I talked about this just before, and just to say again, there will be no reduced passes available for competitors and team managers at Perisher events, meaning the regional and state championships this year. We recommend that lift tickets for the event days are purchased in advance online. At Threadborne Falls Creek, there will be reduced passes that are available to purchase on the day in the ticketing offices at the resorts, and they have a list of our competitors and our team managers as per our online entry system. The volunteer course officials, they receive a free of charge lift ticket if they do not have a season pass. And if you are on the roster, you must check in to our event office at the resorts to receive this ticket. And that will be at Perisher, will be in the Perisher Ski Tube Terminal where we have been previously. And at Threadbow, that's at Friday Flat. Our state championship. So we'll have official invites available after the completion of all 4 regional championships. And those that qualify for the state championships can be for New South Wales schools up to the top 15 individuals and top 5 teams, dependent on competitive times and scores. And entries for the state championships will open in late July. Cross country, slopestyle and multi-class first feature for the year at our state championships, and entries are submitted at the time that the entries open for the state championships. At our state championships this year, as you would have known, Year 12 students from 2020 and 2021 weren't able to compete for the last 2 years, and they missed their final years of Interschools. So we are inviting them back to compete at the state championships when the Division 1 events will be held. Their results will be separated from Division 1 and entries will open next month for that event. It will be by, I'll just go back to that slide. It will be by individual entry, and schools that have competitors, past competitors representing that, we will send the school coordinators a verification that they are bona fide ex-students before that event proceeds. Our national championships are in September, and to qualify for those, you might not be able to see that writing because I think our screens are over it, but up to the top 6 placed individuals and up to the top 6 placed teams and top 20 individuals from the state championships are eligible to compete in the Australian championships. Now, if you're an ACT or Queensland school, you can qualify straight to the nationals, and to be eligible for that, you need to have placed in as a top 15 individual at regionals or in a top 16. And ACT and Queensland schools are given an invite to the state and the national event, and the state championships is optional. You don't have to compete if you don't want to. And if you do, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't change your national invite. You may have noticed that we often advertise other events, and we do that because these events are open to school students. And I'm just going to go through an overview of a few of them now. For athletes with a disability, we have quite a few multi-class opportunities. You can compete at the Regional New South Wales and ACT Championships in July, multi-class for Alpine and Snowboard GS. Also in those disciplines at the state championships and the national championships. You might have seen we've got a new event on our calendar called the Come and Try Interschools race on June 26 at Perisher. This has been developed and targeted to our newest and youngest competitors in Division 6 and Division 5. And it will be individual entry, and entries for that will open next week. The Nordic Days are for cross-country skiers, and there's one at Perisher on July 18 and one in Falls Creek later that week on the Friday, July 22. The Snow Australia Junior Masters is for our past competitors, and it's going to be held at Thredbo on July 29 and 30. There will be, on the Friday, will be a ski cross and a snowboard cross, and on the Saturday will be an alpine and snowboard GS. Again, that will be individual entry, and for all these events, we're going to be using the Snow Australia entry portal. It will be individual entries, no teams. And the Amelia McGuinness Memorial Time Trials may be something that you've seen before, and it's an event that we've supported for a long time now. On Friday in August, just before the state championships are held, is an alpine and a snowboard cross, and it's great practice for the state championships, as well as the biggest fundraiser for the Amelia McGuinness Australian Snow Sports Development Foundation. There's also a cross-country event. Okay, now I'm going to pass over to Kat, who is going to be talking about how to complete your entries, have a look at our website where our important documents are, and run through some important rules.
Thanks, Wendy. Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us this afternoon. I'll just quickly share my screen so that we can, I can show you through the online entry system. So there are a couple of ways that you can get to the online entry system. Through our website, we do have a link that will take you through. And then we've also got the login as well. So I suggest that you maybe bookmark this for future reference, and so that you can easily access it when you need to. Basically, you log in with your email address and a password, select your event. And if you haven't registered before, what you can do is, sorry, you would have noticed there's a register button there. If you haven't, your school is not registered, then you can click on that button and register the school quite easily. So So and then you'll be able to log in when you need to set up your entries. So let's log in here and we'll get this underway. So I'll just give you a quick run through on what you need to know to submit your entries and how to work the online entry system. We do have a handbook which is available on our website through the important policies and the policies and important documents page and you can refer to that at a later date. It gives you step-by-step instructions on how to go through submitting your entries. When you do go to submit your entries, you please make sure that you have the information in regards to the student's SNO ID number, the discipline and the division of the event that they wish to enter, who the team manager is for either the team or the individual. Even if you are submitting an entry for an individual, you will need to submit a team manager or assign a team manager to them as well, and also any volunteers that you may need to supply for the school as well. So I'll just quickly take you through this. So basically that homepage, it gives you a snapshot of what you have submitted in or what you've got entered into the system, how many participants you've already got registered in there. That's not necessarily what has been submitted, but just the names that you may have in there from previous years. Team managers, race entries, volunteers, and then you can see there, you know, how many waivers have been completed for both your participants and your volunteers, and also whether the payment has been received. So you can easily look those details up at any time once you've logged in. Your participants list there will give you the list of all of the students that you actually have at your school. What you will need to do if you need to submit a new participant is click on the add participant there. Make sure you have their SNO ID numbers. So if you don't have any of their SNO ID numbers, you can get that information from the website, and I'll show you that shortly when I go through the website with you. But if you do know what the SNO IDs are and then make sure that they are active, then you can just type that in there, hit find, and that will bring up the SNO ID or the participant's details there. You can select what year they are at school and then just add them in. Make sure you always save your changes, because if you leave that page, none of your changes will be saved. You can add in email addresses there manually just by typing in. No, you can't. Sorry, that goes in from the website, from the SNO Australia membership details. Those details come through. So so that's how you add in participants. Again, add in your team manager's details. You can just type in across there any people who you will volunteer for as a team manager. Once again, save your details. I find it's easier if you just go across the tabs on the page rather than trying to sort of, do things differently. That's just me. You might find other ways that you find easier. But for me, when you're doing small amounts for the smaller schools, it's easier I find it's easier just to sort of enter them in manually. There is another way that we can sort of enter in students for those who are coordinators for bigger schools, and we'll get to that in a minute. So basically, to add in your teams, you do so from this page. You can add in create your teams, add your participants to that team, and also add in your team manager. So if we were to add in a team here, we'll enter in a ski cross team, a Division 1, Team A. If you've only got one team from the school, it'll always be Team A. You only use multiples B, C, and D if you've got multiple teams for the school. So let's have a look there. We're going to enter in some females. So we'll enter in, what have we got? Let's enter in Mary Poppins, and she's going to be in our first runner. And then our second runner is going to be Carrie Bradshaw. So that enters our participants in order you want them to sort of ski down in the team, and their team manager will be Kathy Lambert. So we'll save that there. You can see there that we've only got one Alpine team and we've got it in as a B team. That will cause an issue later on with bib allocation and things like that. So if you find a mistake, you can just click on that team, which will bring up the details, and then you can just make the change from there. Just again, make sure you save changes. You can also see that there's no participants added to that team. So we'll just add in a couple there. We'll add in Marty McFly. He's our first participant. And we'll add in James Bond in position 2. As you know, Alpine teams can take up to 3 competitors. Well, minimum of 3, maximum of 4. All the other teams will take a minimum of 2 competitors and a maximum of 3 competitors. And then we go and we'll save those changes there. Volunteers, as Wendy said before, you only need to supply volunteers if you have 8 or more entries. In this case, we don't have 8 entries, but however, if anyone from your school does want to volunteer, you can just click here on additional positions and you can add those volunteers in, okay? Just know that it is a first come, first serve basis. So if you were to add in a volunteer and the discipline or the division of that particular event is not listed in the drop-down box, it means that those positions have been filled. So you may just need to select another event to volunteer for. Next thing is waivers. Once your participants have been submitted or your entries have been submitted, you'll be able to see here when your participants have completed a waiver, what will happen is there will be a green tick that will show up there. And that will indicate to you that those participants have completed the waiver. If there's nothing there blank like this, it means that they haven't done. So you will need to follow up with the parents to ensure that those waivers are completed. If for any reason there's a spelling difference in a name, for example, and you have some names that come up here and there's unmatched participants, unfortunately, once they've been submitted, you have to go back to the membership to change any spelling errors or anything like that. However, you can just update in the unmatched section. You can click on the name and just make any adjustments there that you need to match those names up. And once that's matched up, then the name will disappear from the unmatched section. It'll pop up in the entered section with that green tick. And the same goes for volunteers. Next thing is lists. Team list here. This will give you a snapshot of everyone that you've entered in and in their teams and who their team managers are. So you can see there that we've got our Division 1 male Alpine team and we've got them listed 1, 2, 3, 4. If for whatever reason, again, that something's gone wrong and you've got 2 participants listed in position 2, just pop back into your teams list, into your teams page, make that change in there, save it, come back here and refresh it, and it should be all good to go. The other thing that you will notice is that once we assign bibs, bib numbers, which doesn't happen until after entries close, there will also be bib numbers that will be listed here as well. So this is just for school coordinators to access. You can also access start lists from this page as well. Parents, though, or anyone else can see start lists on the website. Once we get closer to the event date, we'll post them up on our website. And again, they'll have their bib numbers attached in there. So the other way that you can upload some participants, if you are from a bigger school, is by doing an Excel spreadsheet. So if you download that spreadsheet, it will give you the fields that you need to complete. And then you just can save that and upload it back into the system. Note, though, that whilst you can add in your team managers' names, they do not connect up in your in the online entry system. So you still do need to go back and make that change in the online entry system to be able to add your team managers in. So you just go back here, you'll need to select your team and then select your team manager. Okay. If for any reason you need to make any changes to the school details, for example, the principal details may change, you may need to put in a mobile number or some contact details, that can all be done on this school details page. You can also update or reset your password if you need to for any reason. And the final tab is your invoice. So once your entries have all been submitted, you click on the invoice tab here and it will bring up a cost summary with the details of your registration fees, how many registration fees you're paid for, what entry fees you're paying for. It'll have a link to be able to pay online via credit card. And the other methods of payment are either via direct debit or by BPay. So, yeah, makes it really user-friendly. And just note that payment must be made prior to the event or by the due date, and bibs won't be given out to anyone who has outstanding invoices for entry fees that haven't been paid. Once that's been paid and it's been processed, you will be able to then click on you'll be able to view your invoice, which you can then download. We do request that either the school principal or a nominated person or the school coordinator signs off on that tax invoice and sends it back to us. Basically, it's saying that the students are bona fide students of the school and that the school is happy for the students to represent or to compete under the school name. So, so that's about the crux of the online entry system. As I said, you can find the handbook on the website, which I've got up now, and it will give you step-by-step instructions on how to run through that. So I'll just quickly run through some information on the website. Website is a wealth of information and it will answer most of the common questions that we get asked. I'll just point out some of the most relevant information places that you can find things. So basically we've got our events page, which will give you the schedule at a glance, as well as provisional dates for all the Interschools events, as well as our long-term calendar if you need to plan for next year already. Again, you've got your link there to the online entry system, and you'll be able to see there that got the links plus all the details. Every page will have an FAQ section at the bottom, which will help you if you've got any questions. Waivers, this is where parents and guardians will go to fill out the participant and waiver volunteers form, which will then link back into the online entry system so that you can see that those waivers have been completed. Your latest news, so every e-news that we send out, all of the articles will be here dated so that you can quite easily go back and refer to anything that you may have missed, or think to yourself, oh, I know I read something about that somewhere, and this is the place that you can come back and find it. Policies and important documents. Again, this is where you'll be able to find the handbook, the important dates, schedules, rules of competition. You can see that we are in the throes of finalising the 2022 rules of competition, and we'll have that out very, very shortly. The online system handbook is there, as along with code of conduct, risk management, your slope style and your mogul guide, judging and competition guides, concussion policies and gender diversity policy. So all of those documents are all there in the one place for you to find quite easily. Risk management, again here, any resources that you need for schools to be able to put together their own risk managements. You can find them all here, along with our Interschools risk management policy as well. Volunteer course officials, All that information's here, along with links to be able to take the training course. Merchandise, we will have merchandise for sale online for all of the regional events. We're still in discussions with the regatta shop to whether they'll be at any of the events for either state or nationals, but we'll keep you updated with that information as we get closer to those events. Snow sports providers, so you can check out here any offers from local retailers and accommodation providers in the Snowy Mountains. Our other events, as Wendy went through earlier, you can find out more information there on all of those other events. We will have links to also the Snow Australia website, which when it comes time to register for those events. And of course, the contacts page, which will give you our contact details if you need to contact any of us. One other thing I will point out is to subscribe to our e-news. This is probably one of the most important things that we will get you to do, as this is the only way that we can get all the information out to you and keep you up to date with information as we lead into the events. So please, please, please sign up for subscribe up to the e-news, and that way we can get all that, keep you up to date. We've also got the info hub here, so that gives you more information about the resorts, Snow Racer and Snow ID. This is quite important. So Snow Racer is, you must have a Snow Racer membership to compete in any Interschools event. Membership is free, and you can register for that membership via the Snow Australia website. You can also do upgrades if you need to for any time down throughout the season. But yeah, that's sort of where you'll be able to register and renew. So if you haven't done, if you've done Interschools before, or if you have students that have done Interschools before, but you're the new school coordinator, they will still need to make sure that their Snow IDs have been renewed, are active, and are up to date with all the details, that your personal details that you need, that is connected to their membership. So yeah, so other bits and pieces there that you might find useful. And of course, after the event is our results page. So you can go in here to view the results after all of the events, or look up previous years as well. I think they go back to maybe about 2013, if I'm right, Wendy. But yeah, you can sort of select those from the drop-down box there, and you can go back and have a look at any of those old results if you need to refer to anything there. So, so that's the website in a nutshell. Please feel free to go in at any time and have a look at it. We updated this website last year and we got quite a bit of good feedback from it. We've done some work over the summer, and hopefully you'll be able to find everything that you need there. That's everything there. So Wendy, if you can just bring up your those slides again, I'll just go through some of the latest rule changes from last year.
Yep, coming up now.
Thank you. So as Wendy mentioned earlier, our 2022 rules of competition will be published shortly. I'll just briefly outline some of the changes that have carried over from last year. However, I encourage you to please read through the rules of competition to familiarise yourself with the rules prior to the events. So some of the rule changes we had from last year was that race suits are not permitted in divisions 4, 5 and 6 in any event. However, race suits for Alpine GS and Snowboard GS are permitted for divisions 1, 2 and 3. Waxing of any type in the start area or on the competition course is not allowed, and fluoro waxes and fluorocarbon liquid sprays are prohibited to be used on any equipment. We have a complete stop rule. Now, this is for the safety of our competitors on the course. So in Alpine and Snowboard GS, along with Ski Cross and Snowboard Cross, if a competitor comes to a complete stop, they must no longer continue down the course. The competitor must exit to the side of the course as soon as possible to avoid interfering with the next competitor's run and also for their safety. Now, if they do come to a complete stop, get back up and keep going on again, in the rules, we do have it so that they could potentially be disqualified. So that's kind of a really important rule. And as I said, you know, for everyone's safety on the course. Wendy, can you just go to the next slide, please? Thank you. In Alpine and Ski Cross, if a competitor loses both skis, they must exit the course as soon as possible and will record a DNF, which is a did not finish for this run. Again, if the competitor continues down the course and crosses the finish line, they may be disqualified. If a competitor loses one ski, they must also exit the course and again can be disqualified if they continue on. Again, this is for the safety of all competitors, to ensure that no one gets injured whilst they're on course. A competitor must not be physically assisted during his or her run for any reasons, unless they are, you know, it's for safety reasons, unless someone's, you know, injured or something like that. But you can't just go over and help someone, especially if you're volunteering or if you're on the side of a course, just go and help someone pick up their gear for them to put, you know, to continue on or whatever. So, yeah, so they must just be moved away from the course if they need to, and yeah, and get up on their own free will. Okay, next slide, Wendy. As Wendy said, there'll be COVID-related team change rules in the for this year, so just keep an eye on that. As when the rules come out, and all time disciplines this year will be the best of two runs. Previously, it used to be the two combined times, but moving forward now, any timed discipline will, every competitor gets two runs, but it will be the best of the two runs that will determine their individual or team result. And there'll be no champion school or discipline awards will be awarded at any of the regional events. We will have the champion school and those discipline awards awarded at both the state and the national events for this year. Wendy, can you go to the next slide, please? At the national event, there's a couple of slight changes that you'll note that, again, for all the time disciplines, everyone gets two runs, but it will be combined times at the national event, not your best of two runs, which will be at the regional events and the state event. Again, sorry, and the scored and any scored disciplines, so that is the moguls and the slopestyle events. Again, everyone gets two runs, and it will be the best of the two scored runs that will determine their team and individual results. Cross country this year is a classic event, and it will be held at the state championships or as part of the state championships, and also it will be running a classic event each year for the national event when it is hosted in New South Wales. So I think that was all of the rule changes there.
Fantastic. Thank you for that overview, Kath. Now we're up to our questions part of the webinar. And me and Kath have been busy typing some away, but I'm quite happy to go over them again, just in case others didn't see them, because you never know what questions are going to be asked. And I guess we might have missed some other basic questions and things about interschools. So there was a question about how many races make up a team. Now this depends on the discipline. So our traditional event is Alpine, and you can have 3 or 4 competitors in the Alpine, knowing that the best 3 times overall will get a result. In ski cross, snowboard cross, and everything else, you can have 2 to 3 in a team. I say that except for cross country relay, you must have 3, and cross country classic, you must have 3 to get a result. Hope that made sense. A question there was, can a volunteer also be a team manager? We actually don't recommend this for the exact event. So if you have a team manager for Alpine Division 6 female, but they've also signed up to be a volunteer on that, that's quite a young age group, and we prefer them to be a team manager and to look after that team. However, in saying that, if they're on the older side of the scale and then they're in year 11 and 12 and they're pretty sorted, they know what they're doing, you could probably do both. But you can always put down a volunteer to do an event that is, we actually recommend if you've got quite young competitors that, and you've got a supply volunteer, that volunteer is put down for an event that those young competitors that they look after are not involved in at all. So say a secondary division snowboard cross event if they're alpine skiers. What are our divisions? Our divisions are our entry, and unlike maybe other sports, we don't do age categories or the age that you're going to be turning that year. It's strictly year at school. So Division 1, year 11 and 12, Division 2, years 9 and 10, Division 3, years 7 and 8. Then our primary divisions are Division 4 for years 5 and 6. Division 5 is for year 4 and below. And for alpine and ski across, we have a Division 6, and that is for kindergarten to year 2. Now, if a kindergarten to year 2 competitor is doing snowboard cross, snowboard GS moguls, they're in Division 5. And just a note on that, that a primary competitor cannot compete in a secondary event. An example of that is slopestyle. Slopestyle is only available for secondary students, those in Divisions 1 to 3. So absolutely no primary students can be in that event in particular. There was a question on the online entry process. If you're taking over as a school coordinator, particularly a primary school, you'll probably see that there are competitor names in the participant tab that you don't recognise, and that's because they once competed for the school and they're no longer, they've moved on to high school or they've moved to another school. You can archive them, but what you do doesn't matter for their current entry. That's not going to do anything. So welcome to do that to free up that participation tab. Someone asked about waivers. They couldn't find the link. Hopefully I've put that in the chat, the link. It's also on the website. So when you get to our website URL is interschools.com.au, but go to the New South Wales ACT Queensland South Australia tab. That's a mouthful. Bookmark that, because under that menu will be all the important things that you need to know about our particular events, and the waivers is one of those menu items. Okay, there was a question on when do entries close. So the regional championship entries are open now and they will close on June 22nd. We don't accept late entries, so please get your entries in, but you do also have quite a lot of time until June 22. Now, there was a question about, do school coordinators and team managers need a snow ID? It doesn't hurt because it's actually free and it gives you a bit of insurance coverage. But if you've got anyone that's going to be doing the volunteer course officials training course, you do actually need an active snow ID to be able to complete that course. But the course is free and the membership is free and you get some insurance coverage. So it doesn't hurt to have a snow ID. There is a volunteer free membership within Snow Australia, and also our free membership is called the Snow Racer membership. Okay, and I also saw a question about invoices and are they emailed? Answer is that they're not. They're generated in the online entry system on that invoice tab that Kath went over. and they're live. So if you make a change, it's reflected in the invoice. We recommend that you sort of wait till the end of entries closing, don't we, Kath, to print off the invoice and do payment, because you might have someone in and then they're not in and you paid and there's issues there. So wait just a little bit into June before you do the invoice and the payment. Kath, can you see any other questions that have come up in the chat?
Just got a question here about shifting regions because the dates don't work. Unfortunately, no. Schools are allocated into specific regions for a reason, so that we can sort of, even out the numbers with the events. Especially with the Northern New South Wales and the Sydney regions, we're at capacity with those, and we're working with the resorts in trying to figure out how we're going to maintain or, deal with the crowds and things like that. So, I mean, unless you want to move out of the school holiday period into the ACT and Regional New South Wales event, that we will allow that. But yeah, we just can't chop and change schools because dates don't suit individuals for whatever reasons. So, yeah, there's, what else have I got? I can
answer that.
Sorry,
Kath, I can answer one that I can see. It's, I have 2 children and between them they do 9 events. Do I need to have a volunteer? In cases like that, and you've only got to supply one, and you're one parent who has multiple entries, that just send me an email and we might be able to organise something. We obviously do need volunteers, but we also do get a lot of volunteers from our larger schools. So sometimes we're okay to allow a few schools not to supply volunteers. Sorry, Kath, you go ahead if you saw a question.
Can you register only individuals and have no teams? The answer to that is yes, you can. So all you need to do is you just, in that teams page, when you're creating your teams, add the single participant and just add them in position 1. So yes, certainly you can add in individuals there. That's no problems. Another question here, if a participant has to leave the course due to a fall, but the next competitor does not see this and passes them, how will this affect the competitor's times? Don't stress about that too much. The timers in the hut at the bottom of the course are on radio contact with the top. So they will be able to see that, and most of them can see the whole course anyway. They'll be able to see that someone has moved off and they'll just make those adjustments manually in their timing system. We also, as one of our volunteers is always a finish referee. They are always jotting down bib numbers as they come across the line. So we can always go back and double check that to make sure that, if someone has left the course and they've got DNF, that it doesn't affect the next person that comes down. So that's, there's no problems there.
I've got a question here about a practice run, I believe is what's being asked. So unfortunately, apart from moguls and slopestyle cross country, there are no practice runs available on our courses at the resorts. We've only got a limited amount of time, and that's for course inspection, which allows you to have a really good look at the course, and then you do your 2 timed runs. I hope that answers it. If that doesn't answer that particular question, please put that into the chat.
Another question, confirming there are no mixed teams for siblings in the same division, for example, brother and sister. Yes, girls can compete in the boys division. So if you have a brother and sister who want to compete in a team together, for example, then yes, feel free to create a male team. And that way you can have them both in there as well. Otherwise, they just go in as 2 individuals. Just note though that results, if you're wanting to, if the sister wants to get her own result and know how she goes against other peers in her division, she won't be able to see that because the results will actually be part of the boys' results. So just keep that in mind. Another question here, are there group competitors lessons? Sorry, Kath.
I was just pulling up where they are on the website. Training options is a news item on our Interschools website. Go to latest news, and it was published on the 28th of March. But there are training options at both Perisher and Thredbo. So have a look at those details there.
Yeah.
There was a question on, can it take a little while for the invoice to come up after you put a team in? Now, we only opened our entries yesterday, and Kath and I already found a little glitch with that invoice page. Hey, Kath. So
yes, you would have seen in my example there was actually nothing on the invoice page. So so yes, we have put in a call into our IT guy and to get that fixed up. So hopefully that will be fixed up shortly.
Excellent. There might be a couple of questions on that Q&A, Kath. Okay, here we go. Is it possible to shift a competitor to a different regional championships? Did we answer that one?
Yes, we did. Yeah.
Okay. Given the speed in Div 6 Alpine Ski Across, a complete stop is probably most falls. Will they record a DQ if it's a momentary stop? Now, we give them about 10 seconds, isn't that right, Kath?
Yeah, I think that's probably about right, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. But they mustn't, a complete stop is pretty obvious with a complete stop, but if there's someone on course, particular younger skiers, if they're still using momentum, we can still allow them to finish the course and they won't record a DQ. That one's quite hard to explain. It's more better to be done visually. Yeah, or after the event has happened. But do know this is exactly why we brought in the best of 2 runs results. It's because of our youngest competitors, particularly those in Division 6 and 5. First-time competitors may be going down the course, unsure, get a bit confused. Either we have a lot of people that lose their skis in particular, so make sure you check DIN settings, and ones that just get a bit lost and go around the gates the wrong way. But they've got another run, so the result is your best of your 2 runs. So you've got another go at it. Okay, there might be a few more questions coming in.
Is the cross-country event in Perisher on the 18th of July a come and try style, or is it a competition?
It is a race, and there has a biathlon event on it as well. That's all the information we have at the moment. We'll definitely post more once we know a bit more about how that will look. But it'll be timed, there'll be awards even, and you'll race in your division. So I'd say yes to it being a race, and it's not really a skills session or a coaching session. Okay. Thanks. Oh, good. I've replied to that one. Okay. Okay. I think that might be it for our questions.
And all the questions answered that have come in, unless there's anything else.
Yeah, unless there's anything else that pops up, we might all have an early mark. Thank you again for, oh no, spoke too soon. There's another one. Oh no, they're just saying thank you. Thank you very much for attending today. It's great that we can still use Zoom we used to do these school coordinator information sessions in person, but it actually makes more sense to do it on Zoom so we can reach more people. So we hope we've answered all your questions or covered what you thought we might cover. If you later on think of something that you wanted to ask, please send me or Kath an email, taking into consideration what we've put on today. Again, the handbook on the website is a beast, but it has a lot of information in there on what to expect at Interschools. This session is recorded, and we'll put that up tomorrow if you know of someone that wasn't able to make it. Probably the slides won't be available, just the recording. And we hope to see you all very soon at our events.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Look forward to
everyone.
seeing you in July.